Of all the voyages the human mind can take, there is perhaps none more terrifying, more lonely, or more profoundly misunderstood than the journey into psychosis. From the outside, it can look like madness, a chaotic shattering of the person you once knew. It is a story about a mind that is working feverishly, with a broken compass and a distorted map, trying to navigate a sudden and violent storm. For most of your life, this orchestra plays a coherent, familiar piece of music. There are moments of joy and sorrow, tension and release, but it all makes sense. This symphony is directed by a masterful conductor, your prefrontal cortex. This is the part of your brain right behind your forehead, the wise CEO responsible for logic, reason, social behavior, and most importantly, reality testing. The conductor keeps the entire orchestra in harmony, ensuring each section plays at the right volume and at the right time. This is not a moral failing. It is not a weakness of character. A psychotic break is a profound neurological event, a biological crisis happening in the intricate, delicate universe of the brain. To understand it, we must move past fear and stigma, and instead approach with a sense of awe, compassion, and a desire to understand the science of what is happening. But from the inside, it is a desperate and terrifying battle for reality itself. It is the experience of having the very ground of your own mind crumble beneath your feet, of having the trusted narrators of your senses, your eyes, your ears, your thoughts become sudden and convincing liars. This is not a story about losing your mind. Let's imagine your brain as a magnificent symphony orchestra. Now, imagine one section of this orchestra is responsible for highlighting what is important. This is the dopamine section. Dopamine is not just a pleasure chemical. It is your brain's salience, neurotransmitter. It is the chemical messenger that points at something and says, "Pay attention, this is important, this has meaning." When you fall in love, a surge of dopamine makes every detail of your beloved intensely meaningful. When you are about to discover something new, a hit of dopamine drives your curiosity. It is the highlighter pen of your consciousness. During a psychotic break, this dopamine section begins to play a loud, chaotic, and improvisational solo, drowning out the rest of the orchestra. For reasons that are still being deeply researched often, a combination of genetic vulnerability, extreme stress, trauma, or other biological factors, the dopamine system becomes hyperactive. It starts firing erratically, highlighting everything. A random glance from a stranger is no longer random. It is now imbued with a profound and menacing significance. The color of a passing car, the lyrics of a song on the radio, the arrangement of objects on a table, these are no longer neutral data points. They are clues, they are messages. The world becomes a symphony of signs, all screaming with a secret, urgent meaning that only you can decipher. This is the birth of a delusion. It is not a failure of logic. It is a logical conclusion drawn from a brain that is being fed faulty data about what is important. While this deafening dopamine solo is raging, something else is happening. The conductor, the prefrontal cortex, has been weakened. The pathways that allow the conductor to regulate and quiet the dopamine section are disrupted. It is as if the conductor is tapping their baton, trying to bring the orchestra back into harmony. But the dopamine section can no longer hear them. This is why, during psychosis, a person loses the ability to reality test. The wise, logical part of the brain that should be able to say, "That's an interesting thought, but is it real?" is offline. There is no filter, there is no break. The thoughts themselves begin to lose their structure. The prefrontal cortex is also responsible for organizing our thoughts and speech, linking them together in a coherent sequence. This is where another key part of your brain, the limbic system, is dragged onto the stage. Your limbic system is the ancient emotional core of your brain, containing structures like the amygdala and the hippocampus. The dopamine storm floods this system as well. When it is underactive, thoughts become fragmented, tangential, and disorganized. The belief that people are watching you isn't just a thought. It is accompanied by a visceral, body-shaking terror that feels absolutely real, because the fear center of your brain is firing at maximum capacity. The hippocampus, your memory librarian, also gets drawn in. Old memories can be pulled up and bizarrely woven into the new, delusional narrative. A sense of profound, distorted familiarity can arise, where a new place feels strangely significant, or a stranger's face seems to hold the key to a forgotten memory. This can manifest as speech that is difficult to follow, jumping from one unconnected topic to another. The inner world has become a chaotic brainstorm, and the conductor who should be organizing it all has left the podium. But this is not just an intellectual event. It is a profoundly emotional and sensory one. When the amygdala is overstimulated, the world that is already screaming with false meaning also becomes saturated with intense fear and paranoia. And then there are the hallucinations. This is perhaps the most frightening aspect of psychosis. It is the experience of your brain creating its own sensory reality. It is incredibly energy-intensive and frightening for the person experiencing it. Their brain is a ship in a hurricane, with the captain locked in their cabin, the engines running at a dangerous speed, and phantom islands appearing on the horizon. It's not just that the dopamine system is highlighting real things with false meaning. It is now generating perceptions out of thin air. The experience can be traumatic in itself, leaving behind fragments of confusing memories and a deep sense of shame or fear of one's own mind. And research shows that these neurological storms can, over time, leave their mark, making the brain more vulnerable to future episodes. This is why compassionate, rapid, and effective treatment is not just an act of kindness. It is an act of neurological protection. It is about helping the conductor find their way back to the podium, helping the dopamine section learn its proper rhythm, and allowing the entire orchestra to once again play in beautiful, coherent harmony. You hear voices when no one is speaking. You see things that are not there. These are not imagined in the way you imagine a pink elephant. They are as real, as vivid, and as externally located as the chair you are sitting on or the sound of my voice right now. The parts of your brain that process sound and vision are being activated internally without any external input. The boundary between your inner world and the outer world has completely dissolved. The dreamer is now wide awake, and the dream has spilled out into reality. This entire process, the dopamine storm, the absent conductor, the terrified emotional core, the rogue sensory departments, is a state of profound biological crisis. It's also important to understand that in the aftermath of a psychotic episode, the brain is exhausted. If you have ever experienced this or witnessed it in someone you love, I want you to hold this truth in your heart. You did not, and they did not, go crazy. You experienced a storm in the most complex and delicate organ in the known universe. It is not a sign of a cursed soul or a broken character. It is a sign of a brain in a desperate state of dysregulation. And just like any other biological storm, it can pass. The brain, with its incredible capacity for neuroplasticity, can heal. The pathways can be rerouted, the harmony can be found again. To witness psychosis is to stand at the edge of one of humanity's most profound and terrifying mysteries. But it is a mystery that we must approach, not with fear, but with an unshakable compassion. Because behind the chaos of the storm, behind the delusions and the hallucinations, there is a person who is terrified, a person who is fighting, a person who is trying with every ounce of their being to find their way back to the shared reality we so often take for granted. Let us be the lighthouse, not the rocks. Let us offer the steady, compassionate light of understanding to help them navigate their way back to a safe shore. If this story felt familiar, please know there is hope and there is help. You are not alone in this experience, no matter how isolating it feels. And if you know someone who has navigated this storm, offer them the one thing they need most: your non-judgmental, compassionate presence. That, in itself, is a powerful medicine.